Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're taking a close look at Micron technology, ticker MU. You sent over a whole stack of material articles, reports on Micron. Our job today is to really pull out the key insights, help you understand what's actually driving the semiconductor company, and maybe get a sense of the outlook. We've got info on recent financials, strategic market moves, analyst views, all of it. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay. So Micron Technology, they're a major global semiconductor company, right? Big focus on memory and storage solutions. They've been around a while, founded back in '78, based out in Boise, Idaho. They operate through a few main business units: compute and networking, mobile, embedded, and storage. And the key products, the things you'll hear about most, are DRAM, that's the fast memory for active tasks in computers, NAND flash, think SSDs, smartphones, and increasingly HBM, high bandwidth memory. The last one is super important for things like AI data centers.
Right, HBM is definitely popping up more and more. Okay, so how's the market been treating Micron lately? It sounds like it's been, well, a bit turbulent. I see here over the past year, the stock's actually down about, what, 31.6%, which is quite a contrast to the S&P 500 gaining over 8%.
It definitely underperformed the broader market over that 12-month view, yes. But, and this is key, very recently, May 12th, the stock just surged, jumped over 8%, hit an intraday high near $94.20.
Wow, okay. An 8% jump is significant. What was behind that sudden burst of enthusiasm?
Well, it looks like that recent jump really reflects a shift in sentiment. Investors seem quite enthusiastic now. It's likely tied to their positive earnings momentum, things looking up financially, and also all the buzz around their AI-related work.
Ah, the AI factor again.
Definitely. And the market seems to be recognizing how they're positioned to benefit from that huge demand in AI. Analysts are generally expecting pretty significant earnings per share growth for fiscal 25. And the expectation is they'll probably keep beating earnings estimates based on recent trends.
Okay, that gives us a good feel for the market pulse right now. Let's dig into those financials you mentioned. Q2 fiscal 25. Revenue was $8.05 billion. Now, that's down a bit from the previous quarter's $8.71 billion, but it's way up from the $5.82 billion a year ago.
That year-over-year jump is pretty stark, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really highlights the cyclical recovery in the semiconductor space and Micron riding that wave.
What else stood out in those Q2 numbers? Profitability.
Yeah.
Cash flow.
Yeah, looking deeper, GAAP net income was $1.58 billion as 1.41 per share. Their non-GAAP figure, which strips out some one-off items, was even better, $1.78 billion or 1.56 per share. And operating cash flow looked really strong, $3.94 billion. It's a nice increase from the previous quarter and a huge leap from the $1.22 billion year over year. Even their adjusted free cash flow was positive at $857 million. So yeah, generating solid cash.
So improving profitability, strong cash generation. Despite that longer-term stock dip, the underlying business seems quite healthy right now. What are the key strengths really driving this? What's Micron doing right?
I'd point to a few things. First, innovation. They launched their advanced 1-gamma DRAM node. Think of that as just a more sophisticated way to make DRAM chips, pack more in, use less power. It kept them competitive, technologically speaking.
So staying at the cutting edge there.
Exactly. Second, their execution looks strong. They're really capitalizing on that AI demand we talked about. It's led to record revenue from data center DRAM, which is a huge market.
Makes sense.
And third, strategic investments. They're breaking ground on a new HBM packaging facility. We're talking around a $7 billion investment, specifically to meet that AI data center demand for high bandwidth memory.
$7 billion is a serious commitment. That HBM facility sounds crucial for their AI ambitions, but are there potential risks? Any red flags showing up in these reports we should be aware of?
Good question. It's not all smooth sailing, potentially. That market volatility we saw, the stock lagging the S&P 500 over the year, that's a reminder of the risks. And fundamentally, their performance is tied heavily to the semiconductor cycle. Demand goes up and down.
Always the case in that industry.
Right. And one other point mentioned was Micron sending letters to customers about price increases. Now, that could signal a few things. Maybe cost pressures they need to pass on, or maybe it's just strong demand, allowing them to raise prices. Hard to say definitively from just that.
Interesting point on the pricing. Could be either. Okay, looking ahead then. What are the strategic moves and the future outlook according to these sources?
They're definitely looking forward, especially towards AI. They're planning a business unit reorganization starting fiscal Q4 25. The idea is to better position themselves to capture AI growth across all their markets, not just data centers.
Aligning the structure to the opportunity.
Seems like it. And of course, the big near-term event is the next earnings announcement. Q3 fiscal 25 results are expected around June 25th. Analysts seem to be anticipating strong numbers again. The bigger picture view is really focused on that long-term or secular growth from AI data center expansion. That requires tons of memory.
So, strategy heavily leaning into AI growth. How do they stack up against the competition here? You mentioned Samsung, SK Hynix. Those are the other giants, right?
They are indeed. It's a tough competitive landscape. They compete on market share, obviously, but also heavily on innovation, like that 1-gamma DRAM we discussed. That's a key battleground. And of course, financial performance is how the market keeps score. While we don't have exact up-to-the-minute market share breakdowns here, Micron is certainly one of the top 3 players. Their recent financials and that strategic focus on high-growth areas like HBM for AI are really critical for them to hold their ground and maybe even gain some.
Okay, so bringing this all together,
Oh.
what's the general analyst vibe right now, and what sort of recommendation comes out of all this analysis?
The overall sentiment seems to be, I'd say, cautiously positive. The recent reports definitely highlight strong execution, especially that growth in data center revenue. And analysts are generally forecasting continued EPS growth, as we mentioned.
So swaying the good against the risks.
Precisely. Taking everything into account, the recent stock rally, the solid financials, the AI strategy, but also acknowledging that industry volatility and past underperformance. The summary recommendation seems to lean towards a hold, particularly for investors who are looking for potential long-term growth in semiconductors and are willing to ride out the cycles. Monitoring that next earnings report and any news on the HBM facility will be really key going forward.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener? Micron definitely presents a fascinating case study. You've got a company in a notoriously cyclical industry, but it's making some very deliberate strategic moves to position itself for what looks like a huge growth wave in AI. That recent stock surge shows market optimism is high right now. But that earlier underperformance is a good reminder that this sector can be volatile. Ups and downs are part of the game here.
Absolutely.
So keep an eye on that upcoming earnings report, June 25th, you said.
Around then, yes.
And any news on their 1-gamma DRAM rollout and how that HBM facility progresses. Those will be really important signals about whether they can maintain this momentum. We hope this look into Micron technology has given you a clearer picture. If you found this useful, please do subscribe, give us a like, and maybe leave a comment. It genuinely helps us keep bringing you the kind of analysis you're looking for.